München is Bund hosted an event on right extremism in Munich about the actors, right extremist actors, and the right extremist movement. And I actually subscribed for this event in advance. And I received 2 hours before the event was supposed to take place. I received an email that, according to the disclaimer that they had sent with the invitation, with the pronouncement of where they pronounced the event, that according to their disclaimer, they will not allow me to enter the venue. The disclaimer actually said that, or referred to people from the right wing spectrum. That means people who are close to parties or organizations from the right extremist spectrum, or people who have expressed themselves publicly in a racist, nationalist, anti-Semitic, or in some other denouncing way, specific groups in regard of specific groups. So I thought to myself, this must be a misunderstanding, because I don't belong to the right wing spectrum, and I actually also never said anything publicly that could be considered as anti-Semitic or nationalist or something like that. So I decided to go there anyways. I went with another Jewish friend of mine, and both of us, we were denied entrance. And when I asked, when I said this must be a misunderstanding, they said no. Then I read to them the disclaimer, and when I got to the point, when I got to the word anti-Semitic, then they told me, well, it's that. So I asked them, do you seriously blame me as a Jew of anti-Semitism? So they actually said, we won't discuss this now. Please let the others in, step aside, and we will talk about it later. And once the door is closed, they said, there is nothing to talk about. You have to leave now, which is outrageous. You know, you don't let somebody wait on the side, telling him, yeah, we will talk about it later. And then actually you say there is nothing to talk about. I think they simply didn't want all the other people to see there's scandalous behavior, actually. And then again, I said, I want to know what their justification is, what reason. And then they said that one of my speeches was read out loud on a Palästina spricht protest, which is untrue. But even if, does that make me belong? Does that make me a right extremist? I don't think so. So we had discussions there with them, and the result was that I couldn't enter. And they do have, they have my email address and everything. They could actually write to me if they had thought about what they did, that it might be a bit problematic or something. I mean, any decent and normal person would take the chance, to contact that person and say, let's talk about what happened, or nothing at all.
And of course, they wouldn't say to you, we exclude you for criticizing us in the past, because you were in touch with them in the past to criticize them.
Yes, there was an incident. Well, one must say that this Verein, or how you call this in English, actually, is there something, or is this something typical German?
Society.
It's a kind of, it's a group. It's actually also a legal body when you are a Verein, a club, or whatever, with members. There was this pro-Palestinian protest on July 18th, and it took place not far from the synagogue. But the point is, the protest took place in the city center, which most of the protests, or all of the protests, whatsoever protests actually take place. This is the place to protest, and not in a suburb, you know. And the synagogue is simply right in the middle of the city center. So any protest is close to the synagogue. This protest was not, you know, targeting the synagogue.
Mm.
Nobody was interested in the synagogue. And München is Bund, this club, they made it something anti-Jewish. So they called for
They called it anti-Jewish.
they called it anti-Jewish, and they actually suggested that the whole protest was taking place just in order to provoke the Jews of the synagogue. And this is simply not true. I mean, the protest took place and this in the city center, and the synagogue happens to be in the city center. I mean, if you don't want protests around you, then don't build your synagogue in the city center. I mean, sorry, that's the
but
way it works, you know.
but that's not how you mean it. You know, you don't have an issue with the synagogue.
No,
Of
I don't
course.
have any. Nobody ever had an issue with the
Yeah.
synagogue. I think it's a very nice
Yeah.
synagogue, and I also think it's a good idea to have a synagogue in the city center, as long as you don't demand privileges, as long as you don't demand that, for example, the basic fundamental rights, like the right to protest, uh, is being cancelled whenever you wish. It doesn't work like that. I wouldn't know why, or under which circumstances your fundamental rights are being deleted. In what circles around the synagogue does the law doesn't count anymore?
So what kind of parties are instrumentalizing anti-Semitism accusations in Munich? Because
Actually,
the
you can
context
say all
is,
of them.
yeah, the context is that what people in the world maybe don't know is that in Munich hardly anybody is able to speak against the genocide.
Well, it's actually not only since the genocide in Gaza.
Mm.
We've been having problems in Munich for years already. I'm a member of the Jewish Palestinian Dialogue Group, for example, and this group does a very good job. This year, we celebrate 40 years of a Jewish Palestinian Dialogue Group. Um, and the group has, in the past, already organized a lot of very, very good events, like in lectures from historians, politicians, showing documentaries, you know, everything that actually our government doesn't do, show also another side, not only the Zionist side. This is the job that the Jewish Palestinian Dialogue Group took on itself, to show also, or to give also other information to the people in Munich. And a lot of the events were prohibited, and only with the intervention of courts, these events could take place. Some couldn't. And it was Munich that actually had the first anti BDS resolution, which made it impossible for us in Munich since 2017 to have any events about
But
BDS.
boycott, divest, sanction.
Yes,
Boycott.
boycott, divestment, and sanctions. Exactly. This is the
Um,
BDS movement. It's a civil movement, because, you know, diplomatic efforts, political efforts didn't really succeed. And when you see that these things don't succeed, then the civil society has the right and is right to say, okay, when they fail, then we need to do something
mm.
in order to work towards a change. So there is this BDS movement, which is a completely civil uh, a movement from the civil society. And yeah, the Jewish Palestinian Dialogue Group joined the BDS movement, or at least said it supports this movement. Um, it's no different than the boycott movement of against South Africa back then. Um, so we had problems organizing events here. We couldn't. There was this resolution forbidding any events on or about BDS. My mother, for example, she was completely excluded
Mm.
from the public. There were events that were prohibited or prevented just because there might have been a question from the audience about BDS. Even if the event was not about BDS, we couldn't hold the event. So, yeah.
And are there countries that sanction Israel?
Pardon?
Are there countries that already sanction Israel?
That sanction Israel. Well, there are countries that took steps against Israel. For example, Norway. They had a pension fund, a huge pension fund in Israel that they don't have anymore. There are companies, for example, that stopped cooperating with Israel. Um, I think Ireland, and Slovenia, they started sanctioning Israel,
And
which is completely legitimate.
what did
Uh,
what did Munich is colorful say to you when they didn't let you in?
well, they said when I read out the disclaimer, they said it's apparently it's that I said something anti-Semitic, and yeah, and they said that it's because a speech of mine was supposedly read out loud at a Palästina spricht pro-Palestinian protest, which is not true. But even if it was true, that's no reason to exclude a Jew who belongs to one of the victim groups of right extremism, to exclude a Jew from an event about right extremism.
So is this a desperate campaign by the SPD and Green leaders in Munich to try to stop the truth coming out that the genocide is real and supported by the Greens and the SPD, maybe?
Well, I think this is maybe one point. But the second, and I think more important point is that they do believe that I, with my opinions and my views, which are based on facts, which cannot be said about their views, that I have no legitimacy to be a member of the public. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes.
That
And
I generally there is no legitimacy for me to attend an event that is about right extremism. I'm sure if they could, they would expel me from Munich.
and you are Israeli German.
Yes, Jewish,
Mm,
Israeli, German Jew. Yes.
mm.
I mean,
And
and that's the thing. I mean, how far did it get? I mean, their outrageous arrogance to sit there like it's a bit reminded me of the Germans sitting at a desk and saying the good Jews to the right, the bad Jews to the left. I mean, a selection. They made a selection at
Mhm,
the entrance of this event.
mhm.
Who are they? Which position do they actually give themselves? I mean, this is you can't top this arrogance. Actually,
And when did you say it was said to you somewhere else that it's not in the interest of the victims of Nazi Germany um, like, did that not mean, wasn't the implication genocide is in another genocide is in the interest of the victims?
Yes, that was in Nuremberg. I
Mm.
was invited to give a speech on the Remembrance Day of the liberation of Auschwitz. Um, and I held a speech where I spoke about, I mean, you cannot talk about the Shoah, the Holocaust. You cannot talk about this genocide while there is a horrible genocide happening right now.
Mm.
So, of course, I brought also, I mean, y- you cannot stay in this bubble, in
Mm.
this Holocaust remembrance bubble, while there are people being murdered on a daily basis. Um, so I included the topic of Gaza in my speech because it is like that. Like somebody who doesn't see that there is a Holocaust, a genocide going on in Gaza, and especially the people who think it's justified, that the 7th of October justifies what happened there. These people haven't learned anything from the Holocaust. So this is what I said. And I was mentioned in the research about anti-Semitism. I mean, I was giving the speech in January, and in May there was research on anti-Semitism in the metropole region of Nuremberg published, where I was mentioned as one of the examples for anti-Semitism. And right after my this event in January, there was a lady from of the SPD who went from one newspaper to the other. I mean, that were her 5 minutes of fame. Um, and she presented herself as the only one with civil courage saying something against these horrible things that I said. And she said in an interview that what I said had said was not in the interest of the victims. I was in my speech also referring to my great grandparents, my grandparents who had to leave Germany in 35, who survived by that. Most of the rest of the families, they were killed in Auschwitz. The audacity of this woman claiming in an interview that she knows better what is in the interest of the victims than
Mm.
I, as a descendant of Holocaust survivors and Holocaust victims. I mean, this audacity is it's unbelievable.
And
But that's the attitude here. The descendants of the Nazis, they are the ones who determine who is an anti-Semite and who isn't. What is in the interest of the victims of the Holocaust and what isn't.
mm. And the Palestine movement, as a peaceful movement, that really is not shy to say what it stands for, that stands like outspokenly for its truth of humanism. Um, can we not all learn from that, like that a movement is successful or a party is successful when it really stands up for its own truth?
Absolutely. Um, of course, we have to learn from that. First of all, but on the other hand, you know, humanity is something that you either have or you don't.
Hmm.
And what we saw with the political parties here is just a group, all of them together. They are just groups of people who don't have any humanity inside themselves. So I don't know. I mean, of course they could learn, but I don't think you can learn humanity. I don't think that is something. And I think it's also
So,
we shouldn't also focus too much on the political level, because they are the problem. They are a huge part of the problem, and the problem can never be the solution.
for
So pardon?
for example, in Augsburg, the parts are being produced for the tanks in Gaza. Mm.
Yes, yes. For example, I know a lawyer, and she represents a Palestinian who sued the German government, and he demanded an immediate halt of all the weapon deliveries, arms deliveries to Israel. And I read what the government wrote. They wrote they cannot stop the export of arms and weapons and parts for arms and weapons, because of that would endanger Germans' security and Ukraine's security.
Mhm. So,
So,
so they have to allow a genocide to prevent another violence. Mm.
yeah, I mean, that shows, first of all, what really works, always works in Germany, is two words: security and Ukraine.
Mm.
And you get everything.
Mm.
And that shows how deeply involved Germany is. Like, I mean, I know what they refer to. They buy actually all the defense systems from Israel, Arrow 5, for example. What does it say about a country when its safety and security is dependent on a country like Israel?
Mhm.
Especially when we know that Israeli companies, like what was the name? Pegasus and all these apps and all that.
Mhm.
We know that they abuse all the data and the information they receive. No sensible government would ever cooperate
Mhm.
with such a country and with such companies for
Mhm.
their own safety and their own security. But what does Germany do? Germany actually sacrifices the German population in favor of Israel. Every single German politician has, how do you say that in English, has pledged an oath or something, that they would actually prevent or yeah, any harm from Germany and from the German people.
Mhm. Mhm.
And what did they do with their support of Israel? And they explicitly said, when Israel was taken to by South Africa to the international
ICJ.
exactly Court of Justice, they said, we will explicitly stand next to Israel.
Mm.
So Germany is now also sued
Mhm.
at the ICJ.
Mhm.
Is this to prevent harm from the German people?
And the German people are against the genocide. The elites are
This is
denying.
exactly. They are talking about Staatsräson. First of all, raison is actually ratio. It's to act
Reason.
in a rational way.
Yeah.
Reason,
Reasonable.
exactly. Reason to act reasonably is reason.
Mm.
There is nothing reasonable about the Staatsräson. Nothing. And secondly, what kind of picture of Staat, of state, do they have? In a democracy and in a republic, it's actually the people are the state. But the people are against what Israel does. So this is no Staatsräson. This is a government raison. But don't call it Staatsräson, because the Staat, that's us and not them.
The state am
So
I.
the whole I am the state is I or whatever am
Mm.
I. Yeah, this is what we see now. The word Staat in Staatsräson is incorrect and Raison is incorrect.
Mm.
And secondly, there is absolutely no legal basis for the Staatsräson. But what they do is they actually disrespect existing international law, basic fundamental human rights for an idea that has absolutely no legal ground.
Hmm.
This is the government in Germany.
So by simply not even speaking, you kind of exposed Munich.
Yes. Yes. No, and they actually, let's say so, München's Bund, for example, they exposed themselves. They exposed their, which is called, well, I think what they did is very anti-Semitic,
Mhm.
but it also exposed their pure anti-Palestinian racism. Thirdly, actually, that again exposed their what is called secondary anti-Semitism, sekundär Antisemitismus, which is when you actually instrumentalize Jews, when you use Jews or pretending to do something in favor of Jews or protecting Jews, but you actually just use them in order to be able to live your racism against others,
Mm.
to justify your anti-Palestinian fantasies.
Like police-related anti-Semitism against German police. That's now anti-Semitic according to their leader.
Well, that is actually one-on-one exactly what they did with the IRA definition.
Mm.
Are you acquainted with the IRA? IRA,
Yeah,
IHRA.
yeah.
So, I mean, this whole IRA definition is idiotic. Is
Don't criticize the state, especially not when the IRA definition of anti-Semitism is extended by the Bundestag add-on. They added on something that makes it even more,
exactly.
yeah, unfundable to criticize the state of Israel. Then you don't get any funding in Germany. Mm.
Yes, and they added to the original IRA definition. They added something. They added that Jews and non-Jews.
Mm.
That means, I mean, this is ridiculous. A non-Jew being a victim of anti-Semitism. This is ridiculous, and this is actually what this president of the police or whatever what they said.
And
This addition that they made makes it possible for them to stand in one line with the real victims of anti-Semitism and pushing me, for example, though I am the Jew, but pushing me because of my political views and my anti-Zionist views, pushing me to the side of the perpetrator. They are the victims now. The descendants of the Nazis, the
so then,
Zionist descendants of the Nazis, are standing in one line with the Holocaust victims, while I, as the descendant of Holocaust victims, are being put on the side of the perpetrators.
well, if the German parliament added that to the IRA, then it makes perfect sense that they are talking about German-related anti-Semitism against
Exactly. This
Germans.
and in order to sneak in the line of the victims, they added this in order to be able to feel I'm the victim now, and you, the Jew, the Israel critical Jew, you are the anti-Semite now, not me.
And Schäuble said to Netanyahu when Schäuble was alive, look, we have democracy we can't just make laws like like that, but we can make resolutions because they are only about funding. They can't be challenged by the highest court. So that explains the ERA resolution.
And the thing is that these resolutions, they are being treated like laws. They aren't laws. And that's also a thing. All these resolutions, they actually show that the politicians know that these resolutions are against the law. And they know if they wanted to make it a law, they wouldn't succeed. So therefore, they actually, they make these resolutions that are being treated like laws. The results, the effects, the impacts are the same as if they were law. We could see that with the anti-BDS resolution, for example. Here, the anti-BDS resolution, for example, is a very good example for how it works. That there is no legal ground, there is no scientific grounds. All the parties of the Bundestag, they voted for the anti-BDS resolution. But before they did that, they asked the scientific service of the Bundestag, of the parliament, to do research on BDS, if BDS is anti-Semitic or not. And the scientific service did that research, and they came to the conclusion. They wrote a booklet about their research only about BDS, and the scientific service came to the conclusion that BDS is not anti-Semitic, but they still voted for the anti-BDS resolution. So the question is, on what grounds? So you can see it doesn't have anything to do with the facts. It's just a politically motivated decision, a resolution. There are no legal, no scientific grounds for that resolution, for example. And the same applies also to the anti-Semitism resolutions. There are no legal and no scientific grounds.
And the ERA was not even invented for that, for being a tool of governance. It was explicitly not for that.
There is another, there is the JDA, the Jewish Declaration of Anti-Semitism.
The Jerusalem.
The Jerusalem Declaration, exactly. If the politicians were interested in facts, if they were not driven by a political ideology, a Zionist, pro-Israel ideology, every normal person would say, okay, there is another declaration. Let's take a look into that too. And we cannot actually simply take the IRA when we have something opposite. You would neutrally, objectively, you would take a look into both of them. But the unwillingness to accept that the IRA is not the one and only holy truth, to accept the unwillingness to accept that there is another definition, shows that they are not interested.
Well, the public cannot know because Jews are being excluded from these debates, like you.
Exactly. And that is something that you actually see here in Munich, but I think it's in every German city a lot. The disrespect for the in German, it's another word. Here in English, we call it freedom of speech, but in German, you call it freedom of opinion. This implies actually that everyone has the right and the freedom to express himself freely the way you want, but it actually implies also the right to form an opinion free from any influence, which
So,
means that you have to have a spectrum of information from which you can freely choose the information, and then you can actually found your own opinion based on the information. But what they do is they censor the information so that you cannot freely actually form an opinion about something.
so Munich is bunt, Munich is colorful means Munich is all of us except you. So you were kind of excluded from the event um, by bodyguards or whatever, um, and you were turned into the other. You
Yes,
you were turned into a Jew. Is that
uh, you can
it?
say that I was turned actually into the perpetrator and the enemy.
Mm,
The enemy that has to be kept out,
yeah.
that has to be excluded, and that has to be fought. Because
Or
you know what I always say is, um, I mean, it's for me unbelievable, unimaginable how people can have this hateful opinions, full of prejudice, um, murderous opinions, justifying crimes. I mean, for me, it's unbelievable that people have these views
and
and opinions.
and
But they take it to a level where they simply fight every other opinion, where I must say, I mean, what I'm saying is not an opinion. I am stating facts. These facts are undeniable. You know, that's the point. You can, let's say, apartheid in Israel, in Palestine.
mm,
There is apartheid. There is proof for it. There is evidence for it. And still, there are people saying, no, there is no apartheid. And these are not grounds for any discussion, because I cannot discuss with you if something exists or not when it's already proven to exist. We can discuss if you like it, if you think it's a good thing or not. That is something we can discuss about. But whether there is apartheid or not is not a question of opinion. Do you understand what I mean? I mean,
mm,
these are facts. An opinion would be, I think it's a good thing that there is apartheid, or I think that it's a very bad thing, and
mm.
then we can talk about opinions. But what they are actually doing here is they hamper the population from receiving the necessary and very much needed facts in order to be able to form in an objective, neutral way, in a fair way, your opinion.
And this is still a
And by that,
society. This is still a
pardon,
society that always got away with turning people into the other whenever they became uncomfortable.
and in the course of the last 2 years, already before, I was a bit, how do you say, de-illusioned from Germany. You know, I always thought I live in something that is very close to the ideal of democracy and state of law and all
Mm.
that. And that started, to fade a bit.
And is this
Um,
coming from
in the
above? Like, is this a power a mechanism of upholding power, this exclusion, or is this just embedded in society deeply?
No, I think it is. It comes from above. I think it's a political agenda, and I think that simply the ruling class is exploiting the structures of society, abusing their power. Um, yeah, they are disrespecting existing law for their political agenda.
And now that you have been turned into the other, are you now forever the other, or can you escape that fate?
Well, in my opinion, they are the
Yeah.
others, not me. I am included in a very human, very social
Mm,
society. I pity them.
mm.
They live in a society that is full of hatred,
In a bubble.
aggression, and
In a
they
bubble.
live in their own bubble, and they see that the bubble gets cracks.
So you
That
actually
the
feel
bubble,
completely good. Like you actually um they haven't succeeded.
no, absolutely not. I mean, in what?
Mm,
I'm more included than ever. And they are the ones, and I think they also realize it, that they are the ones excluding themselves and showing their true face.
mm,
You know, all their disguise, they disguise themselves as those social and those open minded, colorful. The whole organization is white. You have 50 shades of white and politically seen 50 shades of brown in this München ist bunt.
yeah.
They are attacking also physically. They are attacking people. For example, there was a huge protest in Munich. It was a kind of union of all kinds of organizations, which is called Together Against the Right, Gemeinsam gegen Recht.
Mm,
And there was one block
mm,
where migrants were. It was the Palestinian bloc. And this bloc was attacked physically, verbally by all the other white organizations. So the only colorful spot in this protest, this spot was excluded and attacked.
mm,
This is München is bunt. Well, the only color they have, this white organization has, is I think a black soul and a black heart. That's the only color
mm.
they know.
And I will post this also to YouTube. Substack does that.
Okay.
Cool. Mm. And if you think about Hannah Arendt, like, do you recognize patterns that she
Oh
described?
yes, yes, and because I recognize these patterns, you know, and that's what I was about to say before. Like in the course of the last 2 years, I must say that the bubble I was in burst. Um,
Mm,
I think, for example, it was a mistake after the Holocaust and after the Second World War. It was a mistake to forgive Germany, to give them the opportunity to rise again the way they
mm,
did. And we see what they do once they are in power. There was, after the war, there was something called the Morgenthau Plan,
mm,
the Morgenthau Plan, which actually, the idea of the Morgenthau Plan was that Germany should never ever have a weapons industry or any other kind of such industry. It should actually be a agricultural country. I think it was a mistake not to follow the Morgenthau Plan.
Merz, didn't Merz say now that Germany has to be the strong man again?
Exactly. Here, this is what you see. This is what you see when once the Germans get power, uh, get strong. This is how they don't know how to deal with it. There is something. I mean, and not by coincidence, I heard internationals already talk about the GGs, the genocide Germans. I mean, Namibia, Auschwitz, Gaza. I think the nie wieder, never again. I think it's like never again a genocide without Germany.
Well, we think here that going to a demo once a year is quite rebellious.
And these protests, yes, 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 it's good when you protest, and this is written in our constitution. But please, the protest should never disturb anyone. Please don't protest between 8 and 5 o'clock, and please not on the weekends between 10 and 11 or whatever. and it should never disturb everyday life. So this is actually the perception of protest in Germany. I mean, the very fact how they defame, or how do you say, the Palestinian protests. I mean, these are people who have lost. I know people who lost 80 members of their family, and they are even not allowed to express this here. And there are even people from the left movement who say, but it's too loud. I think in regard of the suffering, it can't be too loud. And it's so German to tell somebody who is the victim of a genocide not to be so loud. This is also what we were told on Monday from München is Bund. Of course, we were emotional. This is outrageous. And they were just, my ears are hurting. And I looked at this person and I was like, oh, really? Your ear pain is the problem here? You don't understand what's going on here. You don't know what you do to us. I was happy if I just had ear pain.
Actually, the videos go more viral at those protests because people have to speak so loud to get cut through the noise, and that makes the videos more popular.
Yeah, actually, then it's helping.
Because the people watching those videos, they understand the pain.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I think it's even more than just human to take it to the streets, to talk about your suffering. I mean, and they are even not allowed to do that here. And because the politicians know that there is actually no legal step they can take. So they are inventing criminalizations. I mean, the fact that most of the cases in court are being won by the pro-Palestinians. Maybe not in the first steps, but when you take it to a higher court, then there are absolutely no legal grounds for all these criminalizations. And this is what I said before also, like, you cannot defend you cannot defend immoral, illegal, international law disregarding politics with legal and moral devices or remedies. You have to turn to illegal, immoral ways to stop legitimate protests. Do you understand what I mean? Like,
yes,
legal and legitimate protests cannot be prevented with legal and moral remedies. You have to take illegal and immoral steps in order to defend what Israel does, which is immoral and illegal.
And my fascination with Holocaust memoirs, etc., is partly, I think, just the pure survival, like being fascinated by a life story that is absolutely in touch with reality, and knows that there's only the freedom of struggle. You know, like today in Germany, freedom maybe means if I keep quiet, there will be a few bad years and then maybe it gets better again. But this is not how it works. This is not freedom.
No, and it's with, we have bullies in our government. And bullies don't stop. Bullies don't see where their limits are. So they will never stop if you don't make them stop. So just sitting and waiting till it's over won't work. By then, our complete political system is gone,
And that's why it's no coincidence that you are one of the few who are speaking out because you know what freedom means. Um,
I know what freedom means, and I have still a healthy perception of what peace is. I mean, let's start with what our politicians proclaim as peace. Um, Peace for them is actually only the absence of violence against, let's say in this context, the absence of violence against Israel. This is peace for them. That Israel can continue the way it the way it behaves and acts, but with no resistance from the Palestinian side. This is peace for these people. Um, and peace for them is also to defeat the enemy. We can see that also in the discourse when it comes to Ukraine.
but
Um,
let's stay with this one for a moment. So the Munich establishment also wants you to be quiet. This is peace for them. If your family, um, where only some survived the Holocaust, um, if you could please be quiet, that's peace for Munich. Um, because we have to finish the genocide basically today. Um, that's their logic, and so it's not moralizing when you say your ancestors would turn in their grave. You know, it comes from an ethics that understands freedom.
exactly, exactly. And this is, they actually draw a disgusting picture of Judaism in public when they support only the pro-Israel, the Zionist
And
string. I mean, they completely deny pluralism within Judaism.
uh, and Susanna Treumann, who was excluded with you by Munich is Colorful, for her, she said it's a huge burden to be one of the few artist families that survived the Holocaust and to kind of be able to speak up in Munich, to be a voice in Germany, despite the attempt to eradicate all the voices. Um, is it a burden for you as well?
I don't see it as a burden. I rather see it as a mission. It is a
Do,
mission
but
as a descendant.
do you feel like I mean, it's a reality that you are one of the very few that carry on the voice of the ancestors who have all been killed, basically. Like, um, like, how would you describe that? How that you
Well,
are being silenced as one of the very few that can even help these legacies survive.
I think it says actually more about the Germans who do that, who
Mm,
silence me, who exclude me, who turn me into the other, who turn me into the bad Jew.
mm.
That makes me less think about myself than about them. Um, I think less about what it does to me, or yeah, I think more about what it says about them,
I'm
what
not,
they show about them.
and I don't want to relativize or minimize. So I'm not saying the silencing today in Munich is a continuation of the industry scale silencing um, by killing millions, but uh, of course, it's a fact that that you are experiencing this a new exclusion.
Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely. And the thing that drives me not crazy, but that is mostly disgusting me about it is that they feel morally superior, that they really believe that they are morally on the right side.
Mm.
And this is something so irrational. I mean, this is so paradox. It's so obvious. You cannot silence a Jew in for the fight in favor of Jews. You cannot
Um,
say you fight anti-Semitism by silencing Jews.
yeah, one of the last Jews, like in a sense, the Jews here today are the few last Jews.
The problem is actually, I think, the only Jews that you see in public, and
Mm.
this is intentionally done by this way. The only Jews you see in public is, for example, Josef Schuster from the Central Council of the Jews, Zentralrat der Juden. You see Frau Charlotte Knobloch, but the Jüdische Stimme is being silenced. So it also makes the impression for people as if all the Jews are like that. All the
Mm.
Jews think that they are ambassadors of Israel. All the Jews put Israel above everything, and follow this Zionist agenda. And this is not the case. There are many more like me, but they are marginalized. We are being excluded from the
Yes.
public discourse. And we might even be more than the other Jews,
And
the Zionist Jews.
in a way, one could lose citizenship by refusing to equate Jewishness with Israel. I mean, there's actually now the first case of somebody who just got his German citizenship and they are now trying to take it away again from him. So this
Yeah.
is not far fetched.
No, absolutely not. I mean, this is so ridiculous and this is so anti-Semitic uh, to equate Judaism and Zionism or Jews and Israel. And it's also, um, the Germans didn't commit a crime against Israel. They committed a crime against the Jews. And you cannot take Israel as representative for all the Jews. Do you understand what I mean? So
Yeah,
you cannot go against Jews here and say, but it's okay because I support Israel.
yeah, like Zionism has not been in existence for that long, whereas Jewishness exists for much longer. They are different things.
They are opposite things,
Mm.
actually. Judaism or Zionism goes against any Jewish values, actually. And it already starts with the fact
Um,
that Judaism, for example, was never about land, a land or something. Whereas Zionism is only about a country, a land.
that's why
Judaism
Israel
isn't.
is. That's why Israel is explicitly Zionist, right?
Exactly. There are not only a few very Orthodox Jews who are completely against Zionism because it is against the Jewish religion. It is against everything. And what the country also does in the name of Judaism is Zionism.
Mm.
And everything they do, every little thing they do, is against all Jewish values. So it is not just anti Semitic to equate Judaism and Zionism because these are completely different categories. They are opponents one to another.
And when you say everything, that's because of the foundation of Israel, the Zionist Foundation of Israel.
The very idea that the Jews have to have a country of their own is, in my opinion, already anti-Semitic. Why can't a Jew be German? Why can't a Jew be an American? Why does a Jew have to have an own country? I mean, there is anti-Semitism in all the countries, for sure, real anti-Semitism, and not this constructed one. There is, and it would be, for example, it would be Germany's obligation to fight real anti-Semitism, but instead they seem to be quite fine. I mean, okay, then there is a small scandal maybe, but it's okay. But instead, they actually support the idea of a state for the Jews. I mean, the very idea um, by all the countries in the UN, the partition suggestion, the plan, which wasn't actually a plan, it was a suggestion because no one had the mandate to have this partition in Palestine. But okay, but the very idea, um, why did all the countries support, not all the countries, but a lot of countries, especially the Western countries, why did they come up with the idea the Jews should live there? Because they were afraid that after the Holocaust, the Jews, the surviving Jews, the survivors would return to Europe, for example.
Yeah. So not every nation is nationalist, but every nationalism is ethno-nationalism.
What is it? Every
So,
nationalism is?
so not every nation is nationalistic, but every nationalism is ethno-nationalism. Is that?
Yes.
I'm not sure.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
yeah. Would you say that?
Yeah, I could support that. Yeah,
So
I can
would you say
support that.
that your issue with Zionism is not specifically about Israel? It's about any ethno-nationalism.
Zionism cannot be seen as something completely detached from its context. Zionism is actually it's uh, it's in the tradition. I mean, when you actually, let's start by that. Zionism was something that was invented by extremist Christians already, I think, in the 15th century. The idea that all the Jews, out of an anti-Semitism or anti-Judaism back then, that the Jews should live somewhere else, and that the Messiah would return, would come back, return when all the Jews are in the Holy Land.
Mhm.
But Herzl, Theodor Herzl, I mean, we have to see in the times in which Zionism got this or the idea of Zionism became so important and so strong. That was in a time of Western colonialism, Western fascism, and Zionism is a white Western movement. It is actually like the little sister of the typical European, for back then, typical European nationalism, fascism, colonialism. The Jews, especially the assimilated Jews, they were no different actually in their political views also than their non-Jewish, the non-Jewish citizens in Germany, for example, or in Austria. My great grandparents, they were very nationalist.
Mhm.
They had this. My great grandfather had this mustache and this
Mhm.
typical. And
Uh,
my grandmother's name was. She was named after the crown princes of Prussia. Prussia. Charlotte
Assimiliert,
Cecilia. Yes,
assimilated.
they were very assimilated, and they were very nationalist too. So this, when you look at Zionism, it is a white colonial racist movement, and it was a child. It's a child of its time back then.
And was Zionism an assimilationism?
No, actually, it was. I would say actually the opposite. It was an idea that found a lot of support by the assimilated Jews, not by the religious Jews.
That's what I
Um,
meant.
it, yes, it is.
Was
It was, but it was actually the idea of the assimilated Jews who felt excluded. So they actually wanted to rebuild a little Europe in Palestine, according to the environment, that they lived in, that they enjoyed, but they felt excluded and partly also persecuted.
and
So
and did they feel maybe as if they were made into the other constantly?
yes, 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 yes,
And
absolutely.
and so I asked Susanna Treumann this question about a play by Max Frisch, which is called Andorra. And oh, your internet is, yeah. And so I don't remember it, but maybe in Andorra the a person is turned into a Jew. He's seen as a Jew. He's seen as an other, and then his fate is like, can he escape his fate of becoming this other? Like, can we refuse to be what we are seen as? You know, and so the assimilated people in Germany, 100 years ago, um, maybe they tried to escape that fate of being the other that they are treated as, but they ended up with Zionism.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I mean, had the Jews who tried to assimilate, they actually turned from being religious to being secular,
Hmm.
which was in the course of the Jewish emancipation. Um, and it didn't help. And there were also Jews who converted to Christianity, who turned Catholic, for example, but they still stayed the Jew for the rest of the society.
And
Um,
Thomas Dotan Dreyfus just wrote his book uh, Non-Homely, kein Heimisch, which means we can never be at home anywhere, especially not in Israel, apparently. That's the history of his family. And so his grandfather didn't want actually to move to Israel, but he did, because of lack of choices. And he killed himself, and I don't remember if I probably get it wrong, but his grandfather was for the massacres, even though he was not choosing Israel. So kind of in his heart, he had to mix it all together, which maybe led to his suicide.
okay.
He was
Well,
not able to be Einheimisch. He was not able to be at home.
mhm.
Um, he was embracing the massacres to try to be at home. If I get it wrong, I'm sorry, but that's how I remember the book. And at the same time, he didn't actually want to embrace it altogether. Like, he didn't actually want to be there in the first place. So
Mm.
it's a brutal
But that's
history.
the fate. Yeah, but that's the fate of a lot of Jews who fled to Palestine. My
Mm,
grandparents, as I said as well, they were not Zionists, they
mm,
were not religious, but no other country would take them.
mm.
So they fled to Palestine, and
And
they
then,
were
yeah,
never
yeah. Sorry, yeah.
they. But my grandmother, mother, for example, for 60 years, she had lived there. Her
Mm,
Hebrew was very bad till the end. They were still cooking schnitzel and potato salad. They lived in their German Jew Yekes bubble. Um, she would have never returned to Germany after what they did to her family and to her. But she was never an Israeli, you know. She was the German Jew who fled to Palestine. Um, yeah.
and that's a good
The,
thing that we can never be at home. It's like that means we should be allowed to disagree. Munich should be able to sustain that somebody disagrees with them instead of excluding them. It's like this assumption that we can be at home is exactly why Munich excludes people, Jews like you, um, because it's this assumption that if we exclude you, then we will be at home.
and I must say that I have lived in Israel for in total 13 years. I when I made this internship at the Knesset, that was in 2010, in the beginning of 2010, and I returned to Germany only back to Munich only in the end of 2019. Um, and I must say that since the the genocide in Gaza, I have thought of leaving Germany many times. And I was seriously also already checking what the rent is in Portugal or in Spain.
Mm.
And even within our Jewish Palestinian dialogue group, we already said, yeah, but where could we go? Where could we go? And then I thought Ireland, maybe. Um, Israel is no option, but Germany becomes less and less an option as well if they continue like that.
Yes. So are the Germans able to see the reality of how strong the right wing parties are now?
I don't think that the problem are only the right wing parties. I think
Mm,
it's the middle.
mm,
I think it's the Grünen, the Greens, the SPD,
mm,
the Linke, all of them. As I
mm,
said before, like they are so lucky that they have the AfD. They
mm.
can distance themselves from, that they can point with their finger on the AfD, because if there wasn't no AfD, they would be the right winged ones. They would be considered the right.
And do
So they
they see
actually,
how strong the AfD is?
yeah, I do think that they politically they are afraid of the AfD.
But why do they continue then with their course?
Because they think that they do the opposite of the AfD. They see themselves as the opponents of the AfD, where I
Yeah,
would simply put them already in one line with the AfD.
exactly. So that's my question. Like, why do they think they are the opposite? I know you are right.
Because they feel that's what I mean when when I say they feel morally superior, because they do it for the Jews.
Mm. Except for
They
Jews
are
like you.
against.
Oh,
Exactly. They think they are in the position to decide who's a good Jew and who is a bad Jew. And I'm quite, and sometimes they even doubt my Jewishness when saying I'm just a disguised Jew, a Kostümjude, for
Mm,
example. Who are they?
mm.
Is that
Yeah.
any better than this typical? And I actually prefer the typical anti-Semites because
Mm,
there I know what I get. I don't
mm,
get this sneaky hypocrite thing.
mm. And is this all coming from a German culture of not disagreeing with each other? Mm. I
I
mean,
I
I mean,
I think
conformism.
it's surely also conformism, which is very strong in Germany, but
Mm,
it's also, I think, really this. Oh, it's so horrible what happened here. I'm so much better.
mm,
I am so much better
mm,
than this. I am so into that I am in the position to tell Jews how to think, what to think, and I am in the position to exclude Jews when they don't think the way I want them to think.
So I see evil
It comes from
everywhere.
this.
So I don't realize that I am actually in seeing evil everywhere. I'm actually the one that is the pain.
Yes, yeah,
Mm,
because those extremist Zionists, for example, they could
mm,
never be in such a powerful position uh, if they were standing alone. If they had to convince by themselves people all over the world. No, it is all the governments, all the ones participating,
mm,
um, especially here in Germany. Without them, the Zionists would be a minority. They would be considered freaks, racist freaks, nothing more than that.
mm,
But they actually, here in Germany, the German society in form of München ist bunt, Aufstehen gegen Rassismus, and all these, they give them the platform. They elevate them. They make them, as you say in German, salonfähig.
mm.
Because normally, when you listen to what they are saying,
But
no reasonable person, no sensible person uh, would agree with that.
but what you are saying is shocking because it means that Germany is complicit in the genocide much more, not just on the um, like arming level, etc., but uh, it allows the extremists to be perceived as normal.
Exactly. That's, you put it correctly,
Mm.
perfectly correct. Yes,
So
they
Germany
convince here.
plays a function that's even more essential in this triangle: USA, Israel, Germany.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And this is how they think they can cover up for their history, for their own complexes. This is what they do. Um,
Mm.
it is not only, to support Israel because they are so altruistic or something. No, no, it has also something to do with the Germans themselves. It makes them feel good about themselves.
So with
We are the best friends of Israel after what we've done to the Jews. Now we are the best friends.
Mamdani in New York City being so successful, it means that New York City is uh, falling as a Zionist wall, uh, uh, and that means that Germany will be the last country on earth to still hold.
This is called, there is a word for it. This is called Nibelungentreue. Even if it means your own downfall. It means actually your own end.
The total war, just like Netanyahu said.
Yes, absolutely. And the parallels
Total
are
victory.
so obvious. Exactly. And the parallels, I mean, I once also said to a friend, well, I think there is a misunderstanding. Mein Kampf was not a manual, an instruction manual, but apparently Netanyahu takes it as one. The parallels are so obvious, and everyone who points it out is being accused of trivialization or relativation of the Holocaust.
Yeah.
The Holocaust is not only gas chambers, especially as we don't need gas chambers anymore. We have other devices today. So, as I already said once, like, how do you want to guarantee never again is now if you don't see the parallels, if you don't see the first similarities, wehret den Anfängen, like oppose the beginnings or fight the beginnings from the beginning? How are you supposed to get that accomplished when you don't see parallels? Or for example, they always say it's forbidden. You mustn't compare. First of all, of course, I can compare. Comparing doesn't mean equating.
And can you
That when
repeat
there are
that?
similarities, pardon?
Can you repeat that about the gas chambers? Because I'm afraid that somebody might misunderstand that.
Um, I have the impression that people think nothing is horrible, like the Holocaust, as long as there are no gas chambers, for example. But we don't need one on one exactly what happened back then, because we have other devices today to commit a genocide.
I see. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Mm.
but you know what? Even if Israel really build some gas chambers in Gaza, even then, these people would find justifications to legitimize it and to say why it is not the same.
I mean, yeah, let's maybe clarify that because people
No,
always
I'm not saying it's
misunderstand.
the same. It also doesn't have to be the same
Yeah.
for it to be horrible and a
Mm.
genocide. There have been, other than the Holocaust, there have been also other genocides. And it is simply not okay to trivialize other genocides by making the Holocaust something, taking it out of any context.
Yeah.
And the Holocaust was not something divine. It was not something done by aliens. Something so unique that it could never happen again. It was made by humans.
Mm.
So of course it can happen again.
Yes.
And especially as Germans, the Germans have to be very aware, actually, but they are the opposite.
Mm.
They
And
think it's enough to take it to the streets and to shout never again is now. But as I said before, how do you want to get this accomplished, like when you don't see the beginnings?
yes, I I totally get what you're saying, and at the same time, there was something unique about it that's not necessarily unique to the Holocaust, but still there was something unique to the level of it. Like, um, Christian Petzold made a film about the Holocaust, and he said, it's called Phoenix, and he said we can only film around the void, we cannot film in the void. And in a sense, this the film, boy in the striped pajama, whatever. I don't remember the title. In
Mhm.
that film, they actually showed people dying in the gas chamber, and I thought that felt wrong. As a filmmaker, I wouldn't do that. Um, and I think that's what Petzold means. It's like because you cannot show certain things. Maybe because they trivialize it, even when you show it in the worst suffering, it's still a form of trivialization. I can't really put my finger on it, so I just don't want to confuse or mix together two types of uniqueness, is what I'm saying. So I totally agree with your point. But aesthetically, in filmmaking, there's something that cannot be shown. We can only film around the void.
I think the void itself is not the killing, is not the gas chambers. It's
Mm.
this evilness. It's this.
Hmm.
They showed a side in the human being that a decent person doesn't even think about.
Mm.
It's unimaginable. But that is something you also see in Israel, for example. And this is
Mm.
something they have in common, this evilness. It's not um, how many people they kill. It is not, especially for the victims, it doesn't matter in which genocide, if it's the Holocaust or if it's in Gaza or if it was in Namibia or in Sudan now. For the victims, it doesn't make any difference.
I agree with everything you say here about this, and I think that many Germans confuse the two types of uniqueness. So
What do you mean?
like I'm just, I just put it as a question, for you, like
Mm.
um
I
like
think it's too trivial, to see the uniqueness
mm,
in how they performed it.
mm,
Um, that is too trivial. That
mm.
is not the real
so
horrifying thing about the Holocaust.
so in
The
trying
Holocaust is it's on a meta level.
mm,
It's on another level. But you have this level also in other conflicts or genocides. For example, this sadism that
mm,
the Israelis show in those torture camps, for example. There is nothing evil that they don't do.
say again.
There is nothing evil that they don't do right now.
Well,
It's
mm,
unbelievable. I mean,
well,
raping
um
people with
I just think with the German law, be careful when you say nothing, but like, um, yeah,
I cannot think of anything. I mean,
yeah,
letting dogs rape
mm,
people, um, and I don't um, equate it with the Holocaust,
mm,
and I don't minimize the Holocaust by that
no,
because I'm talking about the other level. I'm talking
mm,
about this level of evilness,
mm,
which is a human thing. And because it is done by human, it is a part of humans, apparently. Once humans are being educated to not see the human in the other, um, then every human being can become like that. It is not
and
what happened here. There are circumstances that made it easier for the Germans to do what they did. I mean, the geopolitical location of Germany and all that. But everything that happened here could also happen somewhere else.
and in Germany, there's actually not a lot of protection against discrimination, but the discrimination paragraphs, like the Holocaust paragraph 130A or something, about relativizing the Holocaust, ironically is being used to stop people from talking about today's genocide.
Although there is actually also a paragraph that denying a genocide in general is
Mm,
also forbidden.
Yeah,
They are not aware of that paragraph normally.
and there's
And
people like Zukorovich or something who are accused of doing that public denial. Zukovic.
oh, there are a lot of
Yeah.
people. Just look on Facebook, for example, the comments. Um, it's but I think there is also another thing that simply makes it very uncomfortable for me to live here, is the perception of what is right and wrong. Um, for example, I mean, all of us know it's a complete lie that all of these people killed were Hamas members of Hamas. Um, but even if I mean, we have that here in Germany. There were times when once you were declared a criminal,
Mhm.
you didn't have any rights anymore. Um, and actually, our constitution is written the way it is written
Mhm.
because of these times. Um, so this easiness with which people sit in talk shows, for example, and
Mhm.
justify the killings by saying, yeah, but these were terrorists. Let aside the fact that there are no facts actually for that, that these are just claims, they're just claiming things.
Mhm.
But even if they were, that doesn't make it right. You cannot just kill somebody because you claim he was a terrorist. But even if he was a terrorist,
Mhm.
you cannot kill people, criminals like that.
Mhm.
We have this already here in Germany. And Nelson Mandela, he was called a terrorist. He was considered a terrorist. And now everyone is so proud of him. Um,
And
when politicians say, declare someone as illegal, is here in Germany. When politicians say, for example, Palästina spricht is illegal or whatever, then I think, these seem to be good people.
the occupier in the illegal occupation under international law is even obliged to sustain life.
They don't fulfill their obligations as the occupiers at all. I mean, this is no occupation. This is an annexion
Mm.
um, of the land, and therefore they also say they deny the occupation. They say, but we cannot occupy anything that is anyways ours.
Mhm.
So they don't call it the West Bank, for example. They call it Samaria and Yehuda and Samaria.
Mm.
So they give it other names, so that to change, I mean, to change facts that are there.
And
They try to build a new reality, alternative facts.
and the AI to kill whole families, that sort of plans the one by one killing, building by building, for the military, so that they use every moment effectively. Is this one of the programs is even called "Where is Daddy?" So when Daddy is home,
Yes.
then the whole family gets eradicated. Whereas under international law, if Daddy is a combatant, you're only allowed to kill him in combat, not at home.
Yeah, but frankly, even the idea you can kill him,
Yeah. Mm.
I think this needs to be
Yes.
questioned.
Yes. Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, of course, it's so obvious that these are all crimes, and
Mm.
that Germans are seriously sitting here trying to tell me that this is all legitimate and legal.
Mm.
This makes me, it says something about these people, and it makes it hard for me to live with these people. It makes me afraid to live with these people because now I know, There is the sentence: if you ever ask yourself how you would have behaved back then, look at how you behave now and what opinions you represent now. Then you know what you would have done back then.
Yeah, hardly anybody is coming to the streets to stand by the sides of the Palestinians here.
Yeah. Even I was on one of the bigger protests in Nuremberg, for example. There were about 5,000 people. But of course, the media diminished it, belittled it.
But
But
everybody
there were
who
hardly Germans.
is coming is dragged through the court bureaucracy with empty charges.
Yeah.
Like,
But there were hardly white people, uh, which says a lot.
but they are going after almost everybody who is speaking up here.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely illegal what they do. This is absolute silencing.
But they can't do it.
The problem is also,
They can't
yeah,
do it
sorry.
in outside the street. They can only do it in the street where there's a gray zone area where they get away with pretending somebody was resisting the police arrest, etc.
Yes, and it's so obvious they are staging these situations. You have it on video, you see it. People who follow the police and then stop resisting. Like, I'm not resisting at all.
There's even court cases where the judges refused to look at the video by the Palestinians.
Yeah. Although I must say, if I were a judge, I would be so pissed with the politicians to abuse the legal system for a political agenda like this. I mean, and actually, there is also the point, this is a waste of tax money. This is simply, you're wasting tax money for your political agenda. I can give you an example. For example, in Munich, there was a group of people from Munich who wanted to, they organized an event on, it was called Freedom of Speech, discussed on the example of BDS, forbidden. So this time they took it to court, and it was clear that the municipality would lose. And that was the case. But then they took it, how do you say, in Berufung?
The second level, next court, higher court.
They didn't accept. They didn't accept the verdict. So they took it to the next level, and only for that they took the most expensive law firm here in Munich, and they paid 30,000 euros on this court case. Tax money, taxpayers' money for that, although it was clear that they would lose. So I think that maybe that would be a way to reach more Germans, to show them how this political agenda actually is wasting their money, and that they will be the ones who will have to pay once Germany is being convicted for its complicity in the genocide.
And the police have numbers on their backs and fronts.
They cover them.
But Berlin actually, apparently is now, the police is now refusing to give to the courts the number, the identity that belongs to the number in one or two cases.
Where are we?
Yeah.
Where are we? I mean, really, in banana republics, it's more. There is a better legal system.
An MP was hit in the head by police, and the first thing the police speakers is to claim that there's footage of the MP hitting police. You know,
Yeah,
attacking parliament. The executive branch is attacking the parliamentary branch.
but I think the problem is that the how do you say Staatsanwalt,
The
state
state
uh,
prosecutor. Uh,
prosecutor, yes, that they are actually uh, under the minister of legal
mm,
minister.
mm,
They are not independent. So
mhm.
they are just, one arm of the political agenda.
Yeah.
They are being used. So the judges, they are independent, and therefore you do have a lot of judges who judge
Mhm,
differently.
mhm,
But the state prosecutors, they are a political device.
mhm. Yeah, and people should know that there is Sri Aswa, etc., who will pay the costs, the fines, if you get fined unjustifiably, which is basically almost always the case. Mm.
Yeah, and I do think that a lot of people don't actually know their rights. I mean,
Mm.
including me. When I was told on Monday, for example, that we weren't allowed to film, good that I asked a lawyer in advance,
Mm.
who told me where and when I do have the right to film. Otherwise, I think that maybe I simply would have told my friend not to film anymore.
Mm.
I mean, it starts with that, but it's also, you never know. You can never know what your rights are. And actually, I'm also not supposed to be myself a law book. I don't have to
Oh.
know that. I have to
And
be in a functioning democracy and state of law. I have to be able to rely on the police, for example, not to break the law.
and in Berlin, my impression is that the police is being instructed wrongly about what is allowed, when is it allowed to film. Like um, because often the police officers genuinely believe in what they tell me when I know it's not the case. So they're they're not pretending. They actually were taught that. It seems they are deliberately taught the wrong things because
Yeah,
they
I
my,
mean,
mm,
in Berlin, I mean, it's Kai Wegner, it's the mayor, and it's the senator of
mm,
Berlin, and they are both Zionists.
mm,
And you see that once you follow this ideology, you give a shit about law.
mm.
Everything, everything is okay as long as it serves your ideology.
Yeah.
And this is something where I say, okay, you might hate the fact that there are people thinking differently to you or from you.
Mhm,
But taking it that far to cause physical harm to people for executing their constitutional rights, taking it so far, I mean, something must be very broken in your head, in your
mm.
brain. And in
Yeah.
your moral compass is completely out of order when you take it that far.
Yeah, I asked the police speaker um, who started this hearsay that I asked him, "Do you know who started the hearsay that on May 15 some policeman was dragged into the crowd by the crowd?" And he said he started this claim. And I asked him if he would publicly take back the claim now that there's more footage that seems to disprove the claim. And he said, no, it's an ongoing something.
Because they feel so secure
Mm,
and so backed up.
mm,
They know they can claim whatever they want
mm,
and they will be backed up. I mean,
mm,
they don't have to admit anything, any mistake. Even here, for example. there was the Israeli flag on the city hall of Munich for 1.5 years now. They took it down lately, and actually that was because it was decided in the municipality to take it down because there was a backlash. The population showed that they don't want that. There were protests. They received lots of emails, and maybe they even saw that it was maybe not the best thing to do. Especially also from a legal point of view, it is very questionable what they did because in the constitution it is written that communities, like on a community level, like city level, they are only allowed to operate on a Kommunalebene. That means on
Not foreign policy.
municipal,
Yeah.
not foreign politics, not general politics.
Yeah.
Only politics that concern them as the municipality.
Yeah.
By hanging the Israeli flag on the city hall, they actually started getting into general politics, which is against the constitution. And I think that might be also one reason they decided to take it down. But they would never admit that. So what did they do? They waited till the hostages were released. And then they claimed now that the hostages are released, it's not necessary anymore to have the flag on the city hall, which is ridiculous, you know. But that's the point, that even if they saw that they were wrong, they would never admit that. They would continue in the wrong direction and say, yeah, we have to go on in this direction. They would never say it was a mistake. You were right, and we apologize. No. They would never lose their face, as you say.
And is that because they have already gone too far to return?
Yes, I think so. That first of all, out of principle.
But they are
would
already
never
too
admit.
complicit.
But yes, because it's also, it could have a legal impact on them. It will. At one point, it anyways, it will, whether they admit or not. And maybe it would even be better for them if they admitted it. But sooner or later, it will have legal implications or impact on them. Yeah, I'm quite sure that and that's the good thing. I must say that, you know, other than just taking it to the street, the pro-Palestinian movement is very versatile in the way they document, for example, everything. Everything is documented. Every sentence that was said by a politician, by the director of the university, or something, everything is archived and documented. Nobody will ever be able to say, I wasn't involved or I didn't say anything about it. No. Everyone will be taken, will have to justify himself for what, and will have to take responsibility.
Yes, whenever a journalist in Gaza is killed, Meta seems to try to take all of their videos down.
Yeah, but the silence among journalists is deafening. And I spoke to somebody from the Bayerische Rundfunk about the incident on Monday. And the person I spoke to, it was not the first time that I spoke to him. We already had some conversations, and he's actually a nice guy. And he says he sees the things completely the way we do. But he says the influence from the other side is so big and strong that there is no chance to report in a morally justifiable way from the journalism point of view. They actually give up on any journalist standards.
Mm,
What we see here, it's a shame for journalism what they do.
mm,
And for example, with the incident on Monday, he told me he will talk about it and ask if somebody wants to cover it. But he's not very hopeful that it will be covered. And he was right. He said the majority was against it,
mm.
against bringing something if he's on that.
It's almost like we are returning to oral history. All we have is filming the people in the street that tell those stories.
Yes, yes, and it's a shame. It's a shame. I mean, it started already with Ukraine, but with Gaza, and you know what? They don't even bother anymore to cover it up with good lies.
Mm.
They don't even see the necessity to try to lie to us. It's so obvious. They don't put any effort in their lies.
And who else did you read similar to Arendt?
Not too many, I must say.
Yeah. Mm, mm,
Yeah. Well, there is the Jewish philosopher Yeshayahu Leibovich, um, and he's great. I mean, he predicted everything, and he was
mm.
a very religious Jew.
Can you
Uh,
can you write that in the message down here can you type that
yeah.
in the message window here? If
Uh,
if you can see this window for that, there's a
yes.
window.
Yeah. And it's not that because he or despite he was religious,
Mm,
he had these views. It is because he was religious
mm, mhm,
in the literal meaning of religious, not just pretending by. Oh, here is a funny story I have to tell you about the Jewish community in Munich. Up for pretending, and just because you keep Shabbat once in a while, that doesn't make you a religious person. On the 2nd of October, well, I told you before that I belong to a group. We organize on a monthly basis a vigil, weapons deliveries to Israel, question mark, not in our name, exclamation mark, or not
mm.
in my name, exclamation mark. We've been doing that on a monthly basis now for, I don't know, 8, 9 months. And so did we also on October the 2nd. And this time it was supposed to be a bit bigger. So normally we have it on a specific square, but this time we took it to Marienplatz, which is the central square. Um, Charlotte Knobloch from the Israelitische Kultusgemeinde, from the Jewish community, personally called the Kreisverwaltungsreferat and told them this protest has either to be forbidden or it has to be removed from that square to another one because it's Yom Kippur on the 2nd of October. Yom Kippur is the highest, the most important holiday. Um, and her the reasons why the protest should have been removed was that she said that the members of the Jewish community would be afraid to get out of the S-Bahn or U-Bahn
Mm.
in order to go to the synagogue on the highest holiday. Now the thing is, first of all, you don't have to get off the train at Marienplatz. There is another train station that is even closer. They could
Yeah.
have taken that one. Secondly, and that is actually the point, on Yom Kippur, it is strictly forbidden for Jews to use any vehicle, whether it's using your own car or using a train or a bus or whatever. It's forbidden to eat, to drink, to read and write, and to watch TV, and especially taking the U or the S-Bahn to go to the synagogue is strictly forbidden. And she took that as the reason why our protest should have been removed from Marienplatz. This shows how hypocrite they are,
Yeah.
you know?
So
It's ridiculous.
she took a Jewish thing as a reason that when it actually wasn't about Jewish.
It wasn't about Jewish. We were talking about weapons deliveries to Israel. The whole protest or this vigil actually turns to the German government and not to Israel directly, and especially not, specifically not against Jews
Yeah.
or the synagogue, but abusing Yom Kippur
Yeah.
as the justification, and actually also abusing the lack of information that the Kreisverwaltungsreferat has. They don't have to know that for Jews it's completely strictly forbidden, you know. But using this lack of information and claiming, well, the Jews will be afraid to use the S-Bahn, to get off the S-Bahn, this is so ridiculous. And that actually is the best example of how they work.
Yeah, we should continue soon.
Using Judaism. Pardon?
We should continue soon.
Yes, there's the good thing is the whole situation will not stop so quickly. So we will have a lot, I think, to talk about in the future as well.
Yeah, that's the bad thing, that it continues. That the whole situation continues is the bad thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah. Thank you. That was a good talk.
Yes, yes, definitely. I wonder who will be so masochistic to watch all that. But yeah, I
And
think we said some good things.
can I publish? Yes.
Yes, yes, sure. Send me the link,
Yes.
then I will
The link.
publish it too.
Yes. I will send you the collab link if you want to collab it on YouTube.
Okay.
And I think you will already be in the collab here on Substack.
Okay, perfect.
Automatically.
I don't know who of my friends is here on Substack, but I'm sure more than I thought, just because I'm not there.
Yeah.
Haven't been so far. But yeah, sure.
Super.
And if you ever happen to come to Munich,
Great.
let me and Susanna know before in advance. Where are you actually? In Berlin, I guess.
Yes. In Berlin. No.
Yeah, and if I ever come to Berlin, I will let you know.
Yeah,
but
we should meet when you go to Berlin.
Yes, yes, I definitely will inform you. But yeah, you should also come to Munich, the capital of the movement. Yes.
Okay.
And yeah, another nice thing about this history awareness that Munich applies now for the Olympics 2036.
Yeah. Yeah, the same 100 years later.
Very good idea. Yes, yes, yes.
Oh.
I'm quite sure they want to, have the greatest Olympic Games in Munich, so that nobody will ever speak again about 1972.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come to Munich as long as it's still safe to come to Munich. You never know how long this will.
Well, you keep it safe, because one voice is enough to embarrass everybody.
Yes. No, actually, they embarrass themselves,
Yes.
by things like on Monday, but they don't see it like that. Um, they are so convinced. Yeah, but the Nazis were also convinced of themselves. They also never thought that they would have to take responsibility or justify whatever they did.
Until next time.
You have a nice
Bye.
evening.
You
It
too.
was
Bye
great.
bye.
Bye
Thanks.
bye.
Bye.